No amount of milk is enough. Oh, corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Africa is very special, and when you come down here, even when you're watching through our camera, the landscapes are changed from desert to bushveld to up in the Masai Mara where there's grassland. That means that the biodiversity changes as we move along Africa. And what I love most about connecting with you guys is the fact that I get to share these wonderful experiences with thousands of people.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A very good morning to you all. Although it's raining and it's slightly chilly and windy and just overall wet, we've just been watching a very precious moment there with the Impala. They're wet, but of course they've got to go about their daily duties, and I think that's a newborn lamb. So as long as the weather holds up, we're going to try and stay out for you. We're going to bumble. I, of course, am going to head to the hyena den and see if it's active. But get ready, everyone, because it's that time of day for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome aboard, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you. And this individual is one of the older lambs from the first dropping. And look at those little stubbings, those little horns. Definitely a boy. But it's absolutely fantastic to now see the comparison between the new lambs of the late droppings and the original lambs, and how much the original ones really have grown. Isn't he beautiful? So my name is Lauren, and I do have Davi on camera today, and we're going to do our very, very best to drive around. Hopefully the roads are okay, and hopefully the animals are going to be out to play. If it gets too wet, you will know that we'll head back, and of course one of us will jump on the good old dam cam. But I have a good feeling about today. I really do. So you must talk to us, especially since it's raining. I want to hear your lovely, funny comments that produce a hearty chuckle from all of us. And how do you do that? Well, you use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, @FC on the YouTube chat, or you can register on the WildEarth website and then go to the live Safari page and drop your questions there. Or if you're under 18, please, please, please do talk to us. We really want to hear from you. You guys just send in your questions via email. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And there you have it. The rain has not stopped. It's gone all night. Now it's a little bit lighter now for sure, but it really, really hasn't stopped. And although we haven't received too much rain, I think it was 23 mils yesterday over the entire course of the day, it's fallen on already waterlogged land, already waterlogged soil. That might be what the sort of issue we'll face here. But we shall do our very, very best. Look at these young ones. It's very, very sweet. So you already know the weather here in Djuma Private Game Reserve, but let's go take a look at the weather across all the locations.
Good morning, and welcome to a wet and overcast Djuma, where the birds are walking along the ground, picking up any insects that have been saturated and pushed out of the ground. There we've got a couple of Birchall's starlings. Hello everybody, how are you doing? My name is Steve Velkovic, joined by Bo on camera, and excited to have you with us. We are going to try and stay dry, although I think that's going to be impossible. But we're going to head on down towards Chitwa and see if we can maybe find any tracks or signs of Thandi and Maribs. See what it is they've been up to the last couple of days, because sometimes they can be really accommodating for us. But it's going to be one of those mornings where we're going to just basically talk about absolutely anything that comes our way, kind of like last night. You can hear the rain falling on our roof. Birchall starling walking around. It's not afraid to get its feet wet. Oh, the rain is definitely picking up again. Above the Birchall starling, we've got a blacksmith lapwing. So these birds that are able to walk around on the ground are quite benefited, because they're not really flying right now. It's not that they can't fly, it's that they're not needing to fly, because the weather makes everything quite saturated, makes them quite heavy. And so many of the small birds that do a lot of flying will be just sort of stuck around, hidden in amongst the vegetation, trying to stay dry. But after a solid day of rain yesterday, I'm sure everybody's getting rather hungry. Lots of aquatic insects, or insects in general, flooded in these conditions, pushed out of the saturated soil, floating on the little edges of water there. You can see it's a feeding frenzy right now. A couple of blacksmith lapwings, couple of starlings, and even two walking into frame. We've got a Cape turtle dove who's working very hard this morning, looking for some seeds. Okay. Well, Deirdre is out and about as well this morning. I'm sure she's happy to have Lorna and myself on board, but let's go and say good morning to her.
Good morning indeed. It is a beautiful sunrise. We're not seeing the sun at all, we're just seeing the nice little colours. But still quite overcast. Slight breeze here as well. But you're with me, Deirdre on Safari, and Morgan on camera. at the moment. So our plan this morning is just to bumble around and see what we can see. It didn't seem to rain last night, which is nice for us in one way, but then there's not fresh tracks on the ground. But we'll see what we can find. So there's very, very chirpy little white-browed sparrow weavers that have started this morning, and a couple of wattled starlings calling in the background. Just a really, really pretty morning. Brandy is saying she's excited as to what the Kalahari has to offer this morning. So are we. It's always a blank canvas. You never know exactly what you're going to get when you go out. So, yeah, we'll just drive out and see. There's a little bird that's just been, fortunately, he's been sitting there for a while. It's a little, no, he's on the top of the tree. He was there for a while. That's a little ant-eating chat. He must have found a little ant nest on the ground there because he's been quite busy. So a nice little short, sharp beak and the white windows on the wings. Oh, I can hear jackals howling in the background. They're all... Lots and lots of different groups of jackal calling this morning, but this little ant-eating chat would be eating ants, a very descriptive name, and they live inside the roofs of like aardvark burrows. So they're an underground nester, but in an aardvark burrow. And in the winter season, between the aardvark and the pangolin, you often find ant-eating chats following them because they're digging up an easy food source, and then these birds benefit from that. Normally living in their little family groups. And that is a characteristic of the chats, is to flick their tail and flick their wings a little bit. Fiona is asking the question, if I understand it, do we have black-backed jackals in Tswalu? Yes. No side striped jackal, but black-backed jackal we do. And they were busy calling earlier, so everybody's just calling to say they've made it through the night, they're still territorial owners, good night, goodbye, we're going to bed, we'll see you later this evening. I think that little ant-eating chat is waiting for the sunrise. I can also in the distance hear a pale chanting goshawk. He's just doing his little sing-song, but unfortunately not within the where I can see him. I can hear him, but I can't see him. So let's carry on. Safari Kitty is saying that's a pink lemonade sky. One to go, please. We're going to carry on heading on our mission to find something, but now you get to like a 5-way junction and you choose which way. Let's go straight. Straight today. It was left yesterday at this junction, so let's go straight today and see what this one holds. Maybe we're lucky. So the more open clearings like this, we're looking for springbuck. Springbuck, maybe one or two of those jackals that have been calling. They'll be still trotting around, heading back towards their den to rest for the day. So don't forget to engage with us at hashtag WildEarth and then put at FC in front of your question. Let's see. It's actually getting pinker. I think it's getting pinker. How do you get maybe more lemonade-y if that's possible? Maybe it's turning from a pink lemonade to a pink tonic. Casey is asking if I think that the red soil affects the coloration in the sky. No, I think you do. If it's been really windy and there's lots of dust in the sky, then yes, it will affect the coloration of the sunrise or the sunset to a bit more of a red. But just the actual soil itself, I don't think so. It's just a reflection of the light off the clouds that makes it beautiful, pink like that. So if the sort of cloud cover stays around, we'll probably be in for a really nice sunset, as funny as it sounds. I know we only got sunrise now, but if the cloud cover stays similar for the rest of the day, we may well have a very pretty sunset this evening. But with the Kalahari, as soon as it starts getting nice and warm, a lot of this cloud cover burns off really quickly. And we've seen over the last few weeks how quickly the weather can change. If we've had a really hot day, how quickly those cumulonimbus clouds build up into sort of rumbling thunderstorms and giving the Kalahari lots of rain at this point, which we're always grateful for.
Do you dream of travelling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a WildEarth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees.
Oh, that's a doxy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well.
Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam ops might disagree. Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross is trying. The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
We have more impala. We actually can't get anywhere without bumping into impala. They don't look terribly amused. I don't think I would be either, but the rain is getting a little bit heavier, I'm afraid, which is not good news for being out in the vehicle. It's very persistent rain. It's not easing up in the slightest. But still, I absolutely adore impala. Adore them. Incredibly successful species for a multitude of reasons. And if you look at that body, that unique, it almost looks like someone's painted them, but not smooth or blended. Blended's a big thing in makeup these days. Hasn't blended the edges. So you see the sort of three thick bars. And this, of course, is counter shading. And it's a camouflage strategy that's used in nature. And it's not just in impalas. Manta rays have counter shading, fish have counter shading. It extends into the ocean as well, and on land. Many animals have counter shading, and basically the sort of panel on their back, that dark panel, the top one if you like, what it's doing is reversing the natural 3D effect caused by the sun falling on an object. So that's why counter shading involves the animal being darker on top. Let's just use a manta ray as a perfect example. The manta ray is black on top, and that's where the sun falls. So it starts dark, and as you go down the impala's body to its tummy, it gets very, very light. So it's reversing the natural 3D effect caused by the sun. And naturally, the sunlight will always illuminate the top of any object. Obviously, we're talking about animals here, but in general, it will illuminate the top, the sides slightly less, and in the under part the least. And that's exactly what counter shading is all about. So the result for the impala is that predators tend to focus on hues of light and dark rather than entirely pure color vision like we do. And counter shading helps the impala appear almost 2D rather than 3D, and it will not stand out as much against a landscape. Now, of course, predators will detect movement, they will see, but overall, that's what the counter shading is doing across the animal kingdom, not just impalas. And that's why they've got those three sort of beautiful bars of colour going down their body. I'm sorry you're getting wet, guys. I'm also getting very wet. Colony, you're asking, do impalas? Pronk. I'm so sorry, everyone. I think we're in the way for another vehicle. I'm just going to move. They want to get past. Sorry, everyone. Let me just move. They were waiting patiently, but I love it when all the water falls off the roof onto your lap. There's literally nothing like it. Now I really am wet. Enjoy. Okay, good luck. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Davy, do you have a towel?
A towel?
Yes.
No.
No, that's rather unfortunate.
There we go.
This is Davy's towel that he just gave me. Thank you, Davy. It's probably not going to do much work, but anyway. Okay, back to the Impala. Oh, there are other vehicles out on drive. Okay, I'm just going to dry off a little bit here, but we are going to send you across to a dry Deirdre and a dry Giraffe.
Isn't that just beautiful? That sun is just about to come over the horizon there on the mountains, the Karadaberg mountain range. But we found this gentleman nibbling on the camel thorns. He's been working at it for quite a while. And we have to show you, we can recognize this individual as an individual giraffe. He just look at his horns. He literally, well, his ossicones, should I say. They're literally half the height of everybody else, and he's definitely recognizable because he's the only giraffe I've ever seen with ossicones that look like they're half the height of everybody else's. Oh, no, he doesn't like us talking about his ossicones. Sorry, chap. He's moving on. He's been feeding on one of the camel thorns for quite a while, so he would have disturbed that camel thorn enough that it would have increased the chemical content in the leaves, the sort of the tannin content, and started making itself taste bitter. So he's now moved on to the next one. So he's quite... He's not picking carefully. He's got sort of a really hard palate in the roof of his mouth, very thick saliva, and he uses his lips and his tongue to get in between the thorns and pluck off the leaves. They'll also eat a lot of the camel thorn seed pods. And most of the time the new growth is on the edges. And one of the reasons for having extremely long eyelashes so he can do exactly what he's doing. He can stick his head inside the thorny tree and his eyelashes will react that he can close his eyes if he's too close to the thorns. So here's a question to all of you viewers. What are you having for breakfast? He's having a camel thorn. Elena is asking why his colours or why his pattern's darker than most giraffe. It's just a genetic trait as to whether they're darker or lighter giraffe. The sort of average giraffe around Tswalu tend to be much lighter in colour. Some so light that they almost look pale to white. They're so light in colour, but this would just be from the genetics of where this giraffe came from. And over time, they can get slightly darker as they've been in the sun and they get much older. But in order to get very dark to being sort of like, I've seen giraffes that are almost black, they're so dark. They would have had to have been a very, very, very dark giraffe to have started. And there comes the sun. Oh, it sounds like Steve's found something for us. We're going to send you across there.
Yes, well, welcome back, everybody. We are now just entering Chitwa, and we found a classic example of what it is at the moment to be wet. This brown snake eagle is the epitome of misery and saturation. It's just sitting underneath this Maruda tree, trying to stay dry, but it has not worked. He is absolutely soaked. You can see the very strong-looking raptor-like beak, a very characteristic yellow eye, and what is normally quite a puffy head is a sort of very, very wet ball of hair this morning. It's quite a cool hairstyle, actually. Don't think he thinks so. And just one last characteristic feature is the legs. You'll be able to notice if we go down, the legs have no feathers. So the brown snake eagles do spend a lot of their time perched like this looking for food. Lizard snakes, for the most part. We often find them perched. They do fly, of course. Nice transparent underwing when they fly. Well, Alison's very wet, so it's very heavy. So flight right now is going to cost it a lot of energy. So a lot of these birds will stand still in the rain and wait for the dryness to come. They have essentially pre-oiled themselves, so they have kept a lot of their feathers dry. But unfortunately, after the amount of rain we've had, it's not always possible. But no, these birds often stand perched, and that's got no real purpose for keeping them warm. Movement would probably warm them up more than standing still. But by keeping their feathers dry to a degree, the down feathers on the body are what insulate it and keep it warm. And a good meal in the belly. A comb would probably be a good idea, Jenny. Imagine him styling his hair in the morning. I say hair, everybody. It's not hair, it's feathers, but it looks like it should be hair, doesn't it, with a bit of gel. I think you've got quite a cool sort of rock punk look going for him there. These large raptors generally wait for the sun to shine again. Bearing in mind it's also costs them a lot of energy to fly when it's cold, because they can't really get up. Kenny, I couldn't tell you how strong its talons are, but its talons are strong enough to sever the vertebrae of small snakes, decent-sized snakes. So I reckon if it latched on your arm, it would do enormous amounts of damage. Talons are designed for killing, for crushing, and severing. So just those three words should tell you enough about the power of the talons, but how exactly one is to work out the strength, I would not be able to tell you that, but strong enough to do exactly what it needs to do. Obviously not stronger than a bigger bird of prey, but that just goes without saying. Heavy bird. You can almost feel him dragging down as he took off there. That's going to cost him a lot of energy to fly down towards the watering hole, towards Chitwa watering hole, where we are headed ourselves. There he goes. Well done, number 4. And he's going to land further down. He's now shaken a fair amount of that water loose. I don't know if it's enough. You saw he was just sinking the whole time. Let's continue on. We're going to see if we can pick up on any signs of the beautiful Thandi. It's the area that they've been hanging out in. Don't forget, we love your nice long discussion questions on mornings like these, everybody. We have got lots of time this morning, and it's going to be a slow one, so nice discussion questions would be marvelous, please, if you don't mind. Like yesterday, we were able to delve quite deep. It's going to be a slow morning with regards to content, but we're going to try and find things. William, animals don't go anywhere, really. Thandi's going to be exactly where she is, and that is in a tree with a kill, under a tree without a kill, out in the open. There's nowhere for them to go. Leopards don't actually go into dens, into holes. They might give birth in sort of little crevices and the like, but the adults themselves don't necessarily go in there for shelter. Just like that bird, they'll find a place of relative shelter and wait it out. But we do find often in these conditions that our leopards hunt and they catch food. So invariably in conditions like this, they've done all right already and they're eating. They've got food in their belly or a kill stashed in a tree. So we're going to be looking for any of those signs. We'll just do a little loop around this block, have another look around, see what we can find, and send you over to Deirdre and see what's in her bag of tricks this morning.
So my bag of tricks is that 2 eland have just crossed the road, quite large antelope. I'm going to try and go up the dune. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge and sort of park halfway up the dune so we can look back. It's going to be a little bit of a backwards downhill for Morgan. There's a camera challenge for Morgan this morning to see if we can get a view of these eland in the dune street, because we haven't managed to put eland on at all. They do tend to be a little bit skittish. That's just in their nature. That's not for any other reason. So I'm just going to aim to sort of get halfway up the dune and then to stop, and then we're going to have to see if we can turn around and pan and see if we can get a view of those. So hold on while we go up the dune. This is a very bouncy one. I think about there we might. Now I can't see. Let's see if we can see them. So this is it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. This will be sort of filming backwards off the vehicle, but they're in that dune street. I'm just going to quickly scan with the binoculars to see. You'd think that you wouldn't miss 2 large eland that are weighing sort of 600 kilos to a ton, but they can clock quite nice speeds if they want to. Probably 50, 60 kilometers an hour if they want to go at speed. They're gone already. I don't even see them gone up and over the dune. No, but it seemed like they probably got spooked as we came around the corner, a little scrub hare popped out the bushes and ran down the road, and I think that spooked the eland, which is what made them run, and they've now run completely out of what we can potentially get in as a shot. So just look at that. If I see Morgan's going to go in and zoom and just see the nice little sort of gar grasses on the top of the dune. Lucas is asking, why is it so hard to drive up the dune? It's because it's just sand. So it's just a thick layer of sand, and it's like, it's similar to driving on a beach, really. It's the same consistency of sand. It's just very, very deep. And if you have days where the sand is really, really dried out and there's nothing that's compacting it or holding it together, you have to get good traction. So it is always challenging. So you have to take it at the right speed. You don't have to go excessively fast, but also sometimes your speed is relative to the angle of the dune. You can potter up and over some of the dunes relatively easily, and others, just that sort of steep angle of the dune, you do have to give it a little bit more gas to get up and over. So we can just go up and over this one and see what's on the other side. Vic is asking how many questions I've been stuck on a dune, and I'll have to honestly say too many times to count. So luckily this one has still got a bit of moisture in the sand there. Oh, you see we do need momentum. So we're going to go down, we go backwards a little bit. This could be an epic fail on live broadcast, but let's see how we go. Maybe, yeah, no. This one, you see, no momentum. I'm trying. My foot's flat on the accelerator. It's in first gear. And we'll get over it, this one, easily. This one's not as steep as the one that we zipped over the other day. But there's just a real pretty view of the rest of the Koranenberg down south. So from here, each time we come up onto one of these dune crests, we just scan nicely with binoculars to see if there is anything. Maybe there's some more eland. I don't see anything yet. Even gemsbok, we should be seeing some gemsbok, but there's a giraffe. I see a giraffe. If you take the tallest bush in the background there, sort of at 1 o'clock in the far distance. I mean, that's a very far giraffe. He's probably more than 1 kilometer away at least, but I'm sure if you just go that way, over the top of the acacia. No, go that way. Just go for 2 o'clock. Keep going, a little bit left. A little bit left. There he is. It's a little bit hazy. So that's one. I don't see anything else in his journey, so it's just a single. So at least we can see giraffe. It's a long distance away, but it is a giraffe. It's definitely a little bit hazy. So we're just going to carry on and see what's out there.
It is fantastic seeing you all again. Those who haven't met me, my name is Dylan, in what is undoubtedly a very, very, very green Kalahari from what we were looking at a couple of months ago. We will be doing our very first fireside chat for WildEarth. So if you can join us on the 13th at about 7:30 after game drive, it would be an absolute pleasure. We'll see you there.
Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire straight after the sunset safari.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the live safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the sociable weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
So we've just opened, it was on the ground with a nice big hole in it. I opened it a little bit so that you can actually see the seeds of the wild cucumber. Some people call it a gemsbok cucumber, some people call it a bitter melon. So it is edible, but it's edible once it's gone yellow. When it's bright green, it's not edible. This is another one that Steve can eat, but I'm not a fan. And then inside here, I just want to point out, I'll get the little pointer here. I'm going to tilt it a little bit so you can actually see these bugs. They're called cotton stainers. These bright red ones over here. That is a mating pair. They do seem to be attached. There we go. You can see them there. So they have really pretty geometric patterns on them. And there's just an abundance of them around at the moment, and that's because these summer melons are available. So they seem to lay their eggs inside once an animal has eaten this. The way it was eaten, I would probably say it was a ground squirrel that opened it up, nibbled a little bit of it, and then left the rest. We've just heard a very long rumble of thunder on our northern horizon. I think we'll be okay though. If I look at there we go, the two cotton stainers are on the vehicle. Oh, shame. Get back in the melon, and then I'll put you back. Christine is asking, why would that fruit need spikes? That's a very good question. That's a very good question. I mean, it's not, maybe it's initially until it's ripe, the spike, when it's a smaller fruit, the spikes are really, really close together, and maybe it's that the animal doesn't eat it. I don't know if it's got to do with anything with grip on the soil, but maybe if I pick up this one. So if you look at this one, this is the green one, not ripe yet. And lots of spikes. Maybe it's to deter the animals from eating it until it's ready. I don't know. If anybody else knows, please, by all means, add it in the chat stream at the bottom, because I don't know. That's a very good question. Maybe it prevents animals from standing on it so it doesn't get squashed. It gets a chance to actually get to full size so that the seeds would be ready. They're very visible. I mean, if I move away and Morgan shows you with the camera, you can actually see they are very visible in the environment, different to others. Ooh. So they make these little carpets all over the place. It's like it is a creeper, that'll cover like a nice little ground cover. And then you'll have them that they are everywhere. And the animals will also use them, that will get some form of moisture from them. I can hear a northern black korhaan shouting in the background. Some monotonous larks. Daniel's saying that fruit looks like an ancient hand grenade. Okay, I'm sure if they get too really rotten, if you stood on them, they would probably also explode. Let's proceed down the road and see what else is around in the Dune Street. It's amazing how the sun's gone behind one little cloud and now all those colours have gone. It's just hiding behind only one cloud. But now you don't see all the colours. Oh, I didn't leave my melons behind the way. I didn't. Are there many fruits in winter? Is that how so Judy is asking the question, are there many fruits in winter? No, not too many fruits in winter. A lot of the fruiting bodies rely on having rain in the summer season before then they'll expand like that. That means that there's a lot of moisture and available to them. It's exactly the same as a watermelon or a cucumber. If anyone is that grows vegetables or melons in their gardens or squashes, they know that they require a lot of water in order to expand to a certain size. So most of the fruiting bodies here would be based on summer, and then the summer melon, which unfortunately we haven't got any summer melons around that I can show you now, but they and I mean that they're just not in this area, but they are around at the moment, so we'll try and see if we can find one later. But they're sort of a green melon with a spotty yellow and green colouring, and those in some areas are the only moisture content that some of the animals can get. Oh sorry Morgan, you want to show how many wild cucumbers are out in this region. There's just an abundance. You just see all that looks like Easter eggs lying around all over the place. But that's just a really, really good season. Seasons before, there wasn't this volume of wild cucumbers just because we had a lot of drought and the rain wasn't in the early part of the season. It was quite late. And then there was big gaps between the rains, whereas this year the rains have been phenomenal a lot and quite frequently. So all those fruit have decided, or all the cucumbers are successful this year, so they'll be putting in quite a good seed load into the grass. I can hear the northern black korhaan calling. I'm going to go forward because we're trying to get one of these on camera for you. And normally when we come closer they fly straight up and then they do sort of an aerial patrol, but we almost have to be live at the time that they do it in order for us to see it. And I can hear him shouting, so let's just keep going and see. Maybe we get one to make a debut for us. But he's going to be tricky to see in the grass. He's definitely calling from here somewhere. Where are you? Where are you? This one. He is above us. He's this side here. He's doing his thing. We got. Oh, he's coming down. There, you got him? Oh. Okay, so I saw where he landed. But that maybe we'll get the bird. He's just finished his little territorial loop. So we'll see. Maybe we can get him down on the ground. So it's quite a large ground bird, and he'll be eating on sort of insects, grasshoppers, grass seeds, plant material. But he generally finds a little termite mound or a raised area that he can do his display from. And he landed. There he is. I've got him. I can see him. He's there in between the trees. Don't run away. Don't run away. There he is. You see him? And there he goes. Okay. You can hear him. He's doing his full... Oh, no. He's gone behind the car, so I can't turn the car around. We have to wait till he completes his circuit. And now he's landed behind us. Ah. Well, we can turn around and we can see if we can get him again. It is quite something to see. I saw where he landed. He's back in an open clearing, so we might actually be able to see him. All of this for a bird. We just want him to do his proper TV debut, and he doesn't want to cooperate. Maybe he's a bit show shy. He landed. There he is. I got him. Okay. Ah, he's gone up again. He does make a racket. Oh, he's landing. Oh, maybe. He's landed quite far. Might be a bit of a challenge for the camera. Do you see where he landed, Morgan? So, there he is, and there he pretty much goes. He's sneaking through the grasses there. So, in northern black Korhan, with a little, looks like a chat of some kind on the bushes. We're going to send you across to Steve, who's got something to show you.
Welcome to everybody, where we just thought we would just stop for a moment, allow you to all switch up your volume and just enjoy the sounds of beautiful water flowing.
welcome to a very wet andBeyond in Ngala. I am sitting with a family of crested francolins that are in the road just in front of me. It's 2 adults and 2 kind of teenagers, and they seem to be really enjoying this cool weather, going in and out of the grass and looking all over the road for some breakfast this morning. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide this morning here at andBeyond in Ngala. Behind the camera we have Owen, and it has just started raining again. So we actually are basically on our way back to camp, and I'm hoping I get to see you again a little bit later. But at the moment, I'm just appreciating the rain while we watch these francolins go about their morning routine. You can hear another one calling in the background. This one replying. It's amazing how they throw their heads back like that to get maximum volume. Actually almost looks like it's about to groom the little one. So these are actually pretty territorial, and so when they call to each other like that, they're basically advertising where they are at that time. But they're also a really good indicator of the cats, and I actually was driving this road because I've just found tracks of some of the lions. And so that's why I wanted to come and have a look up here, and then we found these very relaxed francolins. And so I don't think the lions are right here right now. But it is nice to see them so relaxed and going about their family business this morning. So I am going to leave this family of francolins and start making my way back towards cover. Hopefully I'll see you a little bit later. But I'm going to send you over to andBeyond Phinda, who would also finally like to say hello with a gap in the rain.
Phew, I hope that you find some cover soon there, Tessa. We are also having a rainy morning here at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. But luckily, as you can see, it seems to be dry for now. And the animals are sure taking advantage of this. They've come out. You can see we found some zebra and some giraffe not too far from our lodge here. Just slowly feeding in this early morning. It's amazing how things sort of wake up as soon as the rain stops and everything comes out. So good morning. My name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Simon, and we're gonna be with you this morning and hopefully find some animals. It is so beautiful after the rain. I can't even tell you. You straight away you start to hear those birds calling, and you've got this amazing sort of sunshine just poking out of the clouds, and it reflects so beautifully off of everything. I don't know if you can, sort of get an appreciation from there of the dew, or not the dew, actually just the rain on the grass that's now reflecting in the sunlight. You can hear all the insects starting to wake up as well. Got a little bit of a breeze blowing through. And even on those trees, you can see that, those raindroplets really glistening this morning. Absolutely stunning. It almost feels like the bush is celebrating this amount of rain. We've had it, it's been quite dry here at Phinda, andBeyond Phinda, and we've recently had quite a bit of rain. So our watering holes are starting to fill up, and certainly you can see how incredibly green the bush is at the moment. So it is just absolutely breathtaking. Just driving around, you actually get an appreciation for it. Even if you don't see anything, you just drive around and sort of take in the landscapes. Love this time of year. So if we have a look, dragonfly, that's actually a really good question, and I want you to have a look at the grass that we can see here, and you're right to a certain degree. It is almost overgrowing that is the conundrum about going on safari in the different times of years. In winter, you generally see more game around winter because animals have to congregate around watering holes. The bush is far less thick, so you can see further into it and easier to spot the animals by far. And now in the summer months, you can see how high the grass is. There's water absolutely everywhere, so there's not a particular place that all the animals have to go and drink. So they spread out quite far and wide. And then, of course, you can have some difficulties off-roading and things because the soil is very, very saturated at the moment, so we can't off-road. We'll do some damage to the vegetation. But on the other hand, it's a well-managed ecosystem. So everything here is in perfect harmony. The only two populations that we actually have to influence are our elephant population and our lion population. With methods with both of those populations. So we just slow the population growth rate down, and with lions, the male lions, when they reach a certain age, we send them to another reserve. Luckily, we're part of Lionscape, so trying to expand the range of lions in Africa back to where they used to originally occur. And all these animals sort of work in harmony, and because it's in perfect balance, you'll find that there's the right number of herbivores and everything to keep the growth of certain plant species to what they would naturally do if we hadn't intervened, which is, of course, the desired result. That's what all reserves aim to achieve. So we are going to carry on a little bit further down here and see what else we can find for you this morning. Our goal is to stay a little closer to the lodge so we don't get caught in another downpour. And hopefully we'll be back with you shortly.
Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of WildEarth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the WildEarth camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer before the end of February 2021, and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand, which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
We have found one single Tsama melon in amongst some of these other Gemsville cucumbers. It's not quite ready yet because it's not completely yellow, but those little green green. The green on it goes more yellow, and then it is ripe. And the San, or the Bushman people, the San people, tama in their language means speckled water, which you can... so they're referring to the fact that that is a water source. In any of the dry areas, this is possibly the only water source for certain animals is to get from the tama melon. And if they bury them in the sand, they can remain edible for more than a year. So it's kind of, it's sort of a tasteless fruit, but it is highly sought after when it is ripe. So you can even roast the seeds to make a nice nutty taste. Sometimes the leaves and the young fruit used as vegetables. Justy is asking the question, how much water does it contain? So that one's not a very big one. I'd probably have to squeeze it out, but I'd probably say no more than sort of 200 mils if I had to look at the size of the fruit and squeeze it out. And it's just a little bit bigger than an orange if you want sort of a size comparison. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put my hand on it. But yeah, just a little bit bigger than an orange, and some of them do get a little bit larger, but it's densely packed with seeds on the inside. So with having lots and lots of seeds inside, there isn't that much space for moisture, but enough for them. It's not like if I shake it, it's not just a bowl of water. There's seeds inside, which is the purpose of the tama melon. And that would be one of its ways of ensuring that it gets dispersed, is because it's a source of moisture for animals. They come and they eat it, maybe eat the seeds and distribute those seeds somewhere else. You can see, I'm just trying to find, these are the seeds of the, it doesn't really have, all the leaves have died of the tama melon. These are leaves of something else. So it's actually like a wild pumpkin. It belongs to the pumpkin family, and also known as the wild watermelon. So, and then you can compare it similar size to one of the Gemsbok cucumbers a little bit further in the background there. And we tend to find these only in the open areas, so where there's lots of sour grass or taller grass in amongst there, it's difficult to find them. Joy is asking if the sand people would use the shell for other purposes. Absolutely, they potentially take out the seeds carefully and dry that, and that becomes almost like a calabash type of a container where they would maybe store other herbs or anything else that they can find. One of the probably the most common storage mechanism or storage device for the sand people would have been an ostrich egg, where they just make a tiny little hole in the top. They'd then for themselves eat the ostrich egg, clean it out or rinse it out, and then use it as a water storage device. And then they would find a certain kind of herb or a certain kind of sedge, which is like a grass, that's got like antibacterial properties, and they'd put that as like a prop, like a cork, inside the ostrich egg. They'd make a very sort of elaborate little basket that they could carry it on their belt. So most of the time the sand would use ostrich eggs for transport, but this melon certainly, once it would dry out, would have a nice shape. You could almost make a bowl out of it if you wanted to. That sort of Gemsbok cucumber tends to just rot, so that one doesn't make a nice bowl. Where Steve and Ngala up in Djuma and those areas there, they get something that people also used to use to make bowls or very decorative things, was the monkey oranges. They're a green fruit that will also dry towards yellow when they're ready, but those are not necessarily the most palatable. Those have got like a strychnine on the inside in the seeds, but those also make quite decorative items, those monkey oranges. We're going to head on and see if we can actually potentially get an opportunity to go and visit the meerkats. We'll see if they're out and about this morning. So we're making our way in that general direction to see. There'll definitely be late risers this morning based on the cloud cover and the fact that it's still a little bit windy. They haven't sort of really had the sun yet to warm their bodies up, so they're probably going to be slightly late risers this morning. Mole rats have been busy. So it sounds like we're not the only ones on a mission. Oh, wait, running giraffe. Hold on. Oh. Maybe we've got one giraffe that's trying to cross the road in front of us, and then there he comes. And there's another one. Okay. We're Steve's on a mission too. We'll send you across to Steve. We just have to wait for the giraffe to cross the road.
Well, thank you, Dee. We moved on from our very tranquil water scene. We're following up on some impalas that were shouting, and now we've got another bird of prey that's looking as as wet as the brown snake eagle. It looks like one of the Wahlberg's eagles. It's not looking happy with life. Another very cool hairstyle. So you see, everybody, there's really nothing to be done in these conditions except just wait it out. Animals and birds are going to get wet. Elmarie, what kind of shelter are you thinking about? I mean, it's not like there's caves or roofs or houses for them to go to. This is the environment they've evolved in. So they go where they go, and going where they go is out, exposed. Sometimes they might go into a tree like the brown snake eagle did, but for the most part, this is what they have to go by. A nice sort of exposed tree where it allows them easy reach of the wings when they want to jump off the branches to fly. It is the way it is. There's only so many animals that can seek shelter in caves and the like, and humans and bears are probably the only two, really. There are animals that are nocturnal, that use burrows to go into, but it's not necessarily to escape the rain. It's to escape the heat and escape the daytime. Bearing in mind, high rainfall events can impact on those animals in burrows quite heavily. Well, it's possible if something moves, but not too much will be moving around on the floor. Bearing in mind, Wahlberg's eagles do also feed on insects, small mammals, small birds. So if any of them do move about, but it's not as agile as it would like to be. It's very heavy, it's very saturated. There is water everywhere. Smallest of our true eagles, the Wahlbergs. Once again, a dead habitat tree. Looks like an old knobthorn. comes the rain again, another wave. Going to do another loop of the property and then maybe go sit by Chitwa watering hole to go and see what birds are around. Have ourselves a nice warm cup of coffee. Sounds like Lauren's made herself to a watering hole already. Let's go and see what she's got.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Now we're at the weaver tree. We're still here. We're still wet. Hyena Dane was not active, sadly. I didn't expect it to be, but you know, you've got to try. And there's one lone weaver, I think. Can you see any more than one, Davy?
Just one for now.
Just one. It's very hard to see in these conditions. Low ambient light. One wet weaver. He doesn't seem to want to put his left leg down, you see that? Birds are known to do this, to keep warm. Sort of thermoregulation practice. I wonder if that's what it's doing. It obviously has far better balance than any human would. I would fall over. And that's one of the reasons they say that flamingos also do this as part of thermoregulation. And of course, if they didn't stand on one leg, they would just fall over. Love that joke. Davy gave me a snort. It's better than nothing. But we had to help another vehicle. Another vehicle got stuck. So we've done our good deed for the day. Tomorrow is the day of love, after all. Make sure you do your good deeds. We've done ours. This is the quietest I think I've ever seen this little water body. And of course, everything's hiding. We've been looking for insects, but it's not warm enough to power their solar muscles. And the rain is just too heavy. So most likely, at least for dragonflies, for example, they'll be hiding under the vegetation. They'll be in the thicket and they'll be staying low to the ground, using all the vegetation above as cover. They'll be awake, but not many will be mobile. Donna, no, they don't. You'll find these nests hanging all winter. It's quite a strange experience in winter because all the migrants have gone. My mouth's getting better, but it's not that better. And it's quiet. The landscape can be quite barren. The leaves can lose their leaves, at least the deciduous ones. The landscape really changes. Water bodies start to empty, maybe not entirely, but the weaver's nests that you see, these sort of grass bubbles, they will remain. Unless, of course, weathering or maybe storms blow them down, of course, they will sort of start to biodegrade. It's organic material, after all. So they may just weather away, but the birds themselves will not destroy them. They are destroyed by a female if she's really unhappy with the male and thinks it's shoddy workmanship or craftsmanship. The male may destroy his own if he's really unhappy with it. But just because it's the end of breeding season and it's finished, it's time to go, that does not mean that they will destroy them. They'll hang there. They may be utilized by other organisms during winter. Small little creatures who maybe need somewhere warm. It's very possible. But no longer by the weavers. The weavers took a while to come back to this area. It was around Christmas Day that they came to this little pan. And there's only one standing strong against the rain. You're a determined one. He's like, I will get the ladies. Even though it's raining. And there are no ladies right now. I think this is the fullest I've ever seen this water body as well. It's very full. When I first arrived here, this was just completely empty. Just an empty curvature in the topography in the land. There was nothing. Okay, so we're going to continue to bumble in the rain, see what else we can find, and for now we're going to send you to Deirdre.
So we have a relatively rare bird for Tswalu. It's an Adam's stork, which distributionally they don't tend to come here. But with an insect eruption like we've had after the recent rains, all I can say is run, armoured ground cricket, run, because that is exactly what they're eating at the moment. So it's looks like a sort of a flock of about 8 or so birds. And they are a non-breeding intra-African migrant. So they move between the northern half of Africa and southern Africa to Botswana, Namibia. But you can see that sort of blue sheen on the face, the sort of bare facial skin. It's got a nice blue coloration. And really, really nice to see them here. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've actually seen Adam's stork in my career, because they're quite specific about where they like to be. It's nice little, like almost yellow joints. I mean, not yellow, red. I can't even tell my colours this morning, goodness me. Oh, good scratch. So they'd head out towards April. I'll go back. So Harvey is asking the question, what do I mean by non-breeding? So when they are migratory and they come all the way down here, I'm just going to reverse a bit. When they come down here, it means they don't breed here. So when they are here from August to April, they don't breed, and then when they fly back up, it means that they breed in northern Africa. When they go back home to their other sort of summer climate, they'll breed there. You had a good one there. I saw that one get gobbled. So locusts, grasshoppers, termite emergences, and they'll move to areas that have an abundance of food at the moment. And most times you can't walk more than a metre or two without seeing an armoured ground cricket at the moment, and that's what they'll be eating. So the large sheer volume of rain has resulted in lots of insects being successful, which is bringing in unusual birds. Indigo Girl is saying it's definitely a new bird for her. That's absolutely awesome. It's nice to get a tick. It took me a long time to see my first one. I think I'd been guiding for about 10 years, and then I saw one on the Kruger National Park, sort of Mozambican boundary on a cliff face. I was very, very excited. And then I've seen once before here, and now this is the second group that I'm seeing here. So do look very similar to a black stork, except the black stork would have a red beak, no sort of blue coloration on the skin, around the face, and would have also red legs. So storks are one of those ones when we're talking about migrating, so they now have to fly. When they finish here in around about April, they're going to fly all the way north. They're the ones that will typically feed every single day and then fly at night, either by astronavigation, so flying by the stars, or magnetic fields to get from one place to the next, and then they fly overnight, and then in the daytime when they need to feed, they'll stock up on the food, they'll land somewhere. Generally lots of agricultural pastures and areas that are irrigated are one of their chosen spots. Some birds will also navigate by landmarks, but the storks and some of the larger birds have to feed daily, so they tend to fly at night and feed in the day. just think how easy it is for us. We just hop on an aircraft, sit in it for a few hours, and we're where we need to be. Joel is asking, are these the birds that have a crop? So every bird has a crop that's inside, but I think maybe possibly you might be thinking of a marabou stork that has that bulbous sac hanging from the throat. That would be what would look different, but all birds have a crop inside, so it's part of the digestion process. It's sort of just after the esophagus. They have the crop, which is like food storage, and then it goes down into the gizzard, and the gizzard, sometimes birds like ostriches in particular will actually eat stones that'll help grind up the food in the gizzard before going into the stomach. So all birds have a crop, but maybe what Joel was thinking of was that bulbous sac that hangs off the throat of a marabou stork. And then these birds don't have that. I think the marabous are the only ones that have got that sort of bulbous sac that hangs off their throat. So that's the way that they're moving now, is just the typical way that they feed, is that they just walk and stalk through open areas, sometimes having to run a little bit faster in order to catch their prey. But the armoured ground crickets can't fly, so all they have to do is just walk a few more steps and they'd be able to grab them. And the funny thing is, if I look around here, I don't see that many, so they've probably been foraging here for a while. And have made good use of an abundant food source. Starlight is asking, what does the bird's call sound like? Let's have a look. I can play it for you, and then you'll be able to hear it on my... We've all got apps. These apps are very good. There we go. Hopefully you can hear that. That's what it sounds like. It's kind of like a little nasal whistle, really. Really sort of a squeaky type of whistle. So that wasn't the birds calling, that was me playing the call off my app. They probably did look a bit confused for a second. Sometimes calling for them is sort of more around their nesting sites or their roosting sites for the night. When they're moving around in the open clearings like this, they're not necessarily calling. For storks, it's mostly at a roosting or a nesting site where they'd be a little bit more vocal.
It is fantastic seeing you all again. Those who haven't met me, my name is Dylan, in what is undoubtedly a very, very, very green Kalahari from what we were looking at a couple of months ago. We will be doing our very first fireside chat for WildEarth. So if you can join us on the 13th at about 7:30 after game drive, it would be an absolute pleasure. We'll see you there.
Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire straight after the sunset safari.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa, day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. As you can see, we've managed to find some rhino and a lovely male impala just out in the open plains, quite close to our lodge still. You can see it's a strategy that a lot of animals use to graze together. You know, it just adds for a little bit of extra protection, and then also, of course, gives the predators another option to go for. That's why this impala is sitting here close to these rhino. It's quite interesting to actually see a single impala. You know, the impalas are always generally in herds, and even the male impalas either stick in a herd that they were with during rutting season. That's the season around May, June in South Africa, where they become territorial and mate with a herd of females. And you'll generally only see one male in a herd of females then. And he's actually incredibly protective of them. And then once they finish that season, you know, there's no competition between them because they only mate over those few months, so they can ensure all their young are born from December, January. So from then onwards, you know, you'll see that they aren't protective of those herds anymore. They accept other males to join them, or they can just stay in the bachelor groups that they were in if they weren't lucky enough to take over a herd of females during that time. It's quite unusual to just see one by himself. I wonder if something maybe got him separated from the herd. You know, there are animals that do rely on traveling in larger groups to keep very aware of other predators around. You know, there's quite a few very specific survival strategies that they use. One of them is keeping out in the open areas like this. You can imagine it's very easy for them to spot something when there's not a lot of cover for the predators to use and sneak up on them. You know, all animals, all the predators will have to use a variety of different methods to actually catch their prey, but the main thing is using cover. So especially lions and leopards have to sneak up very, very close to prey. Like be able to sneak up really pretty much to that thicket in front. Even that is a bit too far. And they need to get even closer than that if they wanted to take this impala down. Cheetah, because of their acceleration, they've got incredible acceleration, can actually, start a chase from about 20 meters or so, up to 70 meters even. But, the closer they are, the more likely they're going to be successful. Nola, that is such a fantastic question. And yes, thank you for pointing that out. Look at those black stripes down the back of that impala's bum, and then also look at the black on the back of the ears. Now, I'm sure you would have noticed with a variety of animals that they generally have breaking camouflage on the back of their bodies. In fact, even leopard or other animals will have that. And it's called a follow me signal, and it's actually for the other animals in their herd or their pride. So when they're running away, there's something that the younger animals and the other animals can actually lock into to follow them. So it's not to break their camouflage to hide from predators, it's actually so that the rest of their group can follow them really easily. I had a wonderful example of how these animals are very aware of this breaking camouflage when I watched a leopard stalking a warthog the other day. It was the most amazing thing. It started stalking up to them, and as the warthogs came out into an open area where they turned around and could potentially see that leopard, the leopard actually backed off backwards. It didn't turn around. It literally walked backwards into the long grass because it knew that the way that its camouflage was going to get broken was by those signs on the back of its head and the back of its tail. So they're very aware of the fact that that does break the camouflage at the back. But generally, you know, especially for predators, they'll always stalk facing the animals so that that sort of breaking camouflage doesn't give them away. Yeah, so I think what could have happened to this male is potentially something gave the impalas a very big fright, and it caused them to maybe scatter in all different directions, and this male just hasn't come across that herd again or another herd. You know, it doesn't have to have very lasting bonds to his specific herd. I'm sure if he finds another group, he'll just join up with them. That's the only reason I can think of why he would be alone. You can see there's a rhino in the background now. LP, I agree with you. And you know what is funny about impala is that they are so common and we don't give them enough credit. They are beautiful antelope. They are always incredibly well groomed. They spend a lot of their time grooming themselves. And they also have such amazing survival strategies, and that's the reason that they're so common. So they're just impressively evolved sort of antelope that have figured out the best way to survive and to breed and to be successful in this environment. And so the more you learn about them, the more you sit and appreciate them, the more you think, you know, common as they may be, they are truly spectacular antelope and very interesting to watch. There's a group of rhino behind. I think I actually counted 4 earlier. It is difficult. You can see this long grass. You know, sometimes the smaller rhino in this kind of setting, you won't even see those little calves. You can't see below the bottom of the belly of any of these rhino. Oh, I can actually see one small one poking out there that I didn't see before. Oh, so in the meantime, we're actually going to send you over to Steve. It seems as he's got an impala as well, but his impala might have become aware of something in the thickets around them. So let's see what goes on there.
Well, thank you, Kim. The rain is falling steadily now. It's actually almost getting to an unsustainable level. We might need to start heading back as the water's starting to pool inside the vehicle. And our impalas are, well, they're quite jumpy for the best of times, everybody, and they're all knotted together in a group. And I don't know what happened, but one of them spooked, and they all spooked, and now they've all stopped moving again. So in these conditions, even the fall of the rain on the vegetation is sounds that they are hearing. And imagine trying to hear the gentle, silent footfall of a predator. And you've just got this rain beating down on the ground around you and on your body. They sort of try to turn their back to the rain so that they don't get the brunt of it on the side, but it's about all they can do, really. They've fed, they've filled their belly, they're now ruminating, and they're all hanging together in a tight-knit group, because if a predator does come, It's not going to be me that gets caught, is the mindset. Always think of these massive herds and think, oh, they're so sweet together, they're looking after each other. No, everybody. It's very selfish. They're hanging out for the betterment of themselves. As soon as a leopard jumps in, every man and every impala lady for herself. Lolly, I think they're fascinating in so many regards. Their breeding strategy is quite a powerful one. They're little nursery lambs. What I find probably the most fascinating is that those lambs are born, and for about 2 weeks they have got no scent. So they're born from the uterus of a female, they're licked clean, and somehow they got no smell. I don't know how that's possible, but it's obviously a strategy that's worked very well for survival, and it's gotten better and better. So I think that's one of the best sort of strategies I've seen. They are very pretty animals, and you're always going to find an impala. So as a guide, it's important to learn everything there is to know about them, because you're going to find them again and again. And on days like this one, impalas, as you've noticed, I'm just listening to the radio, this is at least the third, maybe the fourth time they've featured on the show. We haven't seen another antelope. Not one. Maybe that's because of the nature of the other antelope. The impala are gregarious. They do accumulate in large numbers, so they will be found easier. And they will also move out into these open areas. Well, the road is open, a little bit of an edge, but they're also trying to sort of protect themselves a bit from the rain by using some of the sort of vegetation around them, although it's not working very well. We're going to investigate, though, because they're not completely relaxed. They're very jumpy. So there might have been something around about this morning. We've been scouring this area. We found a number of tracks of a group of hyena that's been walking around. I've been following them a bit to see if maybe they would lead us to something. We found an area where impala had been running, but yet we haven't uncovered anything else. Another fascinating thing about impala, and other animal I know that does it, is the red deer. I know that about the red deer because when I picked apples in New Zealand, there was a whole lot of red deer being farmed nearby, and they do this incredible roar. It's quite a ominous sound if you've never heard it before, as is the roaring sound that a male impala makes. The first time I was out as a student in the Timavati doing a vegetation survey, I heard this noise that the impalas make in rut, and I honestly thought, first time out in the wilderness, I thought to myself, goodness me, whatever that is coming to eat me. I know Mpho can relate, because he would have thought exactly the same thing. Mpho, he would have, Yes, he would have. Now, the impalas, when they come into rut, which is going to start, they're going to start their antics soon. They do this very crazy roar-like sound. If you haven't heard it before, just wait, you're going to get inundated with it. But that sound is designed to actually stimulate the females. So the females will come into proper estrus between the two full moons of sort of it's May, April, May, the full moons, and the females will come into estrus, and that will get the guys very excited weeks before, months before even they start to demarcate territories. And they start this roaring sound. And apparently that sound that they do, that very weird gurgling noise that they make, is supposed to stimulate the females themselves. Even though they're in estrus, it stimulates the ovulation. So it actually stimulates the production of the eggs in the female, which I think is quite incredible. You could call it a bit of a love song, I suppose. Doesn't sound anything like a love song if you hear it. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, it's got nothing to do with a love song, but yet without that noise, the reproduction wouldn't happen, which is quite interesting. So, and those boys actually sing themselves and fight themselves to death. They lose condition, they forget to eat, all they can think about is the ladies and fighting each other and defending their territory and reproducing and mating, and sometimes there's quite a lot of females to cover, so the boys, should I say, go out with a bang. But that is for a time to come. The wonderful thing about impalas is we've got the breeding season, which is the rutting, and then we've also got the males doing the rutting, the females coming into estrus, the huge groups, the challenging, the competition. Then we have the lambing after the females have been heavily pregnant. So we've got really nice seasonality in the impalas throughout the year. Kelsey, well, they run. As most antelope do, they run. There's no protection, there's run. Run as fast as you can, jump as high as you can. And one of the most important elements, as I said before, is stand in a big group. And that is how you protect yourself, is the predator will take somebody else, not me. Even the males don't use their horns for protection. They use them only for fighting. There's no protection here. It's all about running away. You might see an impala ram turn on a jackal or something like that from time to time, but for the most part, it's every impala for themselves. They're very quick, they're spring-loaded, and being in a group like that is to their advantage. Okay, well, we're going to probably try and move past these impala and see what is on the other side. In the meantime, over to andBeyond Phinda.
Oh, welcome back. We managed to find another beautiful animal this morning. Some giraffes that are feeding on Speculia right in front of me. What's really quite interesting about this one on the right hand side is you can see that there's quite a bit of mud by the legs and especially by the feet. So that's probably a sign from last night when he was lying down in an open area. Would have got some on those front knees, those back knees, and just by the feet there. And oh, look at his back left leg. You see those scars? He's got three actually, really long, thin scars. And that is most likely from a claw. So I think this male has actually managed to get rid of a lion attack. There's some fresh wounds on his back right leg, some cutaway skin, but I think that is from a different occasion. More likely, something that an oxpecker made worse by picking at it, keeping the wound open, maybe caught it on a branch or something as he was running. So I think that's a different occasion. But if you look at those long, thin scars, that's generally what claw marks look like. So what would have happened was a lion would probably try and run up and jump on the back of this giraffe and manage to not get a good grip. That's not really where they want to get their claws in. They'd actually try often and jump onto the back of the giraffe and maybe get their claws into those front legs, around the shoulder joint, and hold on there and try and either use their body weight to sort of tip the giraffe over and get it off its feet, or even try and bite that spinal column there and sever one of those nerves, trying to paralyze the giraffe. All sounds very gruesome, but it is nature, and that is how these things go down sometimes. You can also see the huge amount of ticks around the back leg. There's another one coming out from the side there. Thanks for your question, Carla. Yes, giraffes can see in color, but not the color spectrum that we are used to. There's a few colors that they can see, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I think, it's the basic ones, sort of like orange and maybe a bit of green and yellow, but certainly not the variety that we can see in. They aren't colorblind though, so not just black and white. Really interesting question. What's beautiful around this giraffe, you can see he's got a very, very dark coloration. I don't know if any of our viewers have heard that theory that the males are darker in color. If you saw the other two that were walking around here, it's actually a group of males that I'm seeing. But there's some truth and also some lies to that. So the truth is, from what I've noticed, is when you see a very dark giraffe, most of the time it is a male. So I have seen that sort of leaning towards that general saying. There is a bit of truth to it in that, but it is not always the case. You know, you have very light males, in which case we actually had a very light sort of grey-brown male on the left, clearly proving that it's not always the case. And you can get dark females as well. But this is one of those rare cases where you can see, yes, it is very dark and he is a male. You can see the beautiful patterns on his coats as well. You know, they're not sort of solid shapes. You can see a lot of breaks on the outlines on them. Really stunning patterns going on here. And just to tell you how I know it is a male, I'm sure most of our viewers already have known these tricks, but let's just let everyone know. So the first giveaway, we look on his belly. You can see that protrusion there. That is his penis sheath. And that is how we know it's a male. You know, you can also look at the ossicones, so those horns on the top. You can see that there's not, you know, there's almost like a buzz cut to the hair, and if you look carefully, you might be able to see a little bit of skin poking out. So the males do have thicker ossicones generally, although this male, I'll be honest, his ossicones aren't as thick as usual. But generally a bit thicker than the females. Now you can see that skin really nicely on the top. But they don't have, you know, hair that goes into a paintbrush sort of tip. More just a buzz cut, or you can see that's bare skin poking out the top. So that's another way. They're also a bit bigger than the females. I think what's going to happen, these giraffes, I've found some really delicious trees to feed on. They're going to carry on feeding here with the zebra right next to them. And in the meantime, we're going to send you over to Lauren, who seems to have found an animal that's significantly smaller than our giraffe over here.
All is not lost. The wind is definitely picked up, but we do have an elegant grasshopper clinging on for dear life here. One insect. We had a beautiful web for you earlier, but no spider. The insects are definitely hiding. It's not the weather to be out and about, but here, Mr. Charming, also known as a rainbow grasshopper, I guess elegant and rainbow both absolutely work. Hello, good morning. Are you enjoying the rain? Now, elegant grasshoppers are said to be poisonous, but how it works, they don't actually harbor poison, if that makes sense. In the animal kingdom, sometimes you can find something called bioaccumulation, and there's lots of different examples of bioaccumulation across the board. But when an animal ingests a plant that may contain toxins, it can build up in the body. So that organism doesn't harbor its own toxins, but it's gaining them from the material that it eats. Now, these toxins won't harm that organism. However, they can build up. And bioaccumulation basically just refers to when an organism is absorbing or ingesting a toxic substance at a faster rate than which is being lost, either through sort of catabolism or excretion, whichever method. So then it stays in the body, or some of it, a small percentage, it could only be 5% stays, the rest is excreted or catabolized. And therefore, as the organism continues to eat that substance, it's going to continue to build up and build up and build up. And therefore, that organism itself then becomes poisonous, or it becomes toxic, unpalatable. And this is through bioaccumulation. I mean, if you even think of the problem with tuna. Tuna is delicious. I don't eat it, but I do miss eating it. It's delicious. It's a huge part of the Maldivian diet, at least. And there's a big problem there because of mercury. Mercury is building up inside the bodies of the fish. Now, this is not natural. That organism does not generally have mercury. It's from the environment and from what that organism is eating. And that's another example of bioaccumulation. Butterflies, even some butterflies are toxic because of what they're eating. Diane, insects have an exoskeleton. So their skeleton is on the outside and all the organs are harbored on the inside. So if you imagine us walking around with our bones on the outside like a suit of armor. So really no part of that insect's body will be soft other than its eyes and its antenna. The antenna are quite rigid for the organism, but obviously when we touch it, we are a million times larger. Of course, it's going to be soft to our touch, but other than the eyes, the entire body is covered in an exoskeleton, and therefore none of it will be soft. They also need to shed their exoskeleton in order to grow. Their exoskeleton is also covered in a waxy substance, believe it or not, and that's to prevent dehydration. An insect's biggest fear. There's different layers, we call this cuticles, to the exoskeleton, but there will be no part of that insect that's soft. It can't afford to be. The exoskeleton is a protection, I guess, that bodysuit of armor. We can't see you. But we call it rainbow grasshopper because it's beautiful, it's so colourful, we love it, but it's actually a warning. You know, this grasshopper is telling prey, be it birds, be it small reptiles, don't eat me. It's not worth your while. I am unpalatable and I will make you sick. Oh, it's cleaning. It's cleaning its antenna. How sweet. Okay, so as I bumble, I'm going to try and look for some more insects if they are around. I believe Steve has some impalas for you.
Our impala are reacting to a francolin. That's alarm calling. Just off to the side, yeah? They immediately reacted to that francolin's noise. And as the francolin made a louder noise as if it was being pursued, they immediately all got very, very alert. And even half of them ran away. So this is obviously a very attractive sort of situation here for a leopard. There's plenty of animals. The rain and the wind offers enormous amounts of confusion. I was observing the herd before. It's quite interesting how the herd was all bunched together and all the babies were sort of stuck inside in the little middle, all crawled in the middle. And the francolin's over to the left there. You can hear it calling. The impala are not looking at that direction, which is interesting. But a situation like this would be too much for a leopard to pass up. So we're going to stay right where we are. Because if a leopard does approach, we'll probably see. No, Kirsty. As discussed before, it's every animal for themselves. No leaders in impalas. They're all very selfish. Leaders are supposed to be uniting and for the group, as with zebras, as with an elephant. But in this case, it's every impala for themselves. There's no love lost between them. The mother might come searching for her youngster if it gets caught. But other than that, impalas are just happy if someone gets caught it wasn't them. Obviously, when the rutting season starts, the males will start to segregate areas, and they fight for those areas, and they keep any other male away. I want to go and have a look what that Franklin's shouting at, but I don't want to disturb these impala. If anything, whatever's causing the Franklin to shout, if it is a leopard, it would be making its way here. Being in a group like this, as we discuss all the time, has benefits.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from South Africa and I'm the incredibly lucky winner of the Tswalu competition. Tswalu has so much to offer, but we're really looking forward to the game viewing options, as going out with a personal guide who has so much knowledge will just be exceptional. Motsi Lodge looks absolutely amazing and we're so looking forward to spending time there. It really is out of this world. I only registered as an explorer towards the end of January, so when the email arrived stating that I was the winner, it took me totally by surprise. I'd just like to thank WildEarth and Tswalu for this most incredible prize. It really is a dream come true.
WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by. And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
And that's our weather at this stage. Is also looking pretty doom and gloom. It's definitely raining on the eastern side of the reserve. Some beautiful, beautiful cloud cover. So our little meerkat update is that we went to the burrows. The makalas had already gone out foraging, and the babysitter was the only one left with the new pups. And as soon as she saw us, she panicked and she got them all down in the hole, and that was the last we saw of them. So we literally had a little glimpse of the youngsters. So they are starting to come out the burrow. And we'll just have to keep trying over the next few days. So you just have to keep watching Safari Live to see when those little meerkat pups, when we can put them on for the first time. But yeah, the babysitter saw us coming and thought, well, everyone else is left and she's all by herself. She's not going to take a chance. She'd rather take them to safety. So she was just doing her job. But you can see sort of the sheeting rain there out to the east. So still no real sunshine to speak of at this stage. Still a slight breeze, and I do anticipate, based on the wind direction, that some of that rain is coming in this general direction as well. Hopscotch is asking if those mountains in the background have a name. Yes, this is part of the Korannaberg mountain range, so Koranna, and then Berg, so Berg, sort of more of an Afrikaans word for mountain. And most of the Korannaberg mountain range fits within Tswalu. Yeah, lots of wattled starlings. They're moving. There must be a big collection of insects in the one area, because they're making a lot of noise moving around through the areas behind us. So it sounds like the weather is not that great anywhere else. We'll carry on driving. So I got the question, unfortunately I didn't get the name, but what is the difference between a naturalist and a safari guide? So I think naturalist means you covering more aspects of nature. You sort of down on foot, you covering all sorts of things, and you're interpreting to camera or that would be my sort of definition of a naturalist, and you're covering all topics, whereas a safari guide is generally taking a safari in an open vehicle with guests on the back, and they are then looking predominantly for mammals, but they will cover plants, trees, birds as they go, but they are sort of putting a safari product together for the guest. So a safari guide is taking a guest into lion sightings and leopard, cheetah, all of those things. It's almost two different words, but they're almost, I would say, virtually the same thing. But yeah, whether you're a safari guide or a naturalist, you have to know a little bit about everything. And we were discussing last night all the different topics that we as guides need to know. Geology is one of them, sort of your soils. You need to know weather and climate, astronomy, and that's aside from sort of insects, birds, reptiles, snakes, scorpions, and each area that you operate in will be different, so you've got to know what's where and what you're going to find in some areas that you're not going to find in others. That abdom stork that we saw earlier today, you don't find them all over Southern Africa. So that was sort of a more rare sighting. And if you were a guide or a naturalist, you'd need to know that would be one of the ones that you wouldn't expect to find regularly in your environment. So even here, relative to other areas, we don't even see, for example, we don't get the ground hornbills here. So that's something we don't see. We do see the odd yellow-billed hornbill and grey hornbill, but if we look at how many trees we have that have got sort of hole cavities or nesting cavities, we don't have near as many as the Djumas and the Phindas and other areas, so their population of hornbills is a lot more than out in this area. So the hornbills here will be competing with everybody that also wants a whole nest in a tree. And there are quite a few birds that want that, the barbets and the woodpeckers as well. So just have to go around the tree a little bit, otherwise we lose our aerial on the back. We wouldn't want that, otherwise we wouldn't be broadcasting. So it's a relatively quiet morning, but what we do find is the wind, a slight breeze, slightly colder wind does tend to do that, in that it does make it a little bit harder for the animals. They tend to stay lying down. We will make it. There we go. You've got to just squeeze the aerial between the trees, otherwise it's a bit of a problem. Morgan won't be too impressed if I knock the entire box off by not driving carefully. Kevin is asking, are there any watering holes nearby? So while we were on our way to the meerkats, we did stop over at the one that we regularly use, but there was nothing there. So that's the closest one. In the general direction that we're driving in at the moment, it's probably a few kilometers before we get next to the next closest one. The Kalahari, the watering holes are well spaced out, because you wouldn't necessarily have that amount of water occurring all year round. So apparently there's a bit of an audio issue. It's good on our side, FC. But otherwise you can just enjoy the silent segment with us for a bit. It's never a bad thing to just sit back in your armchair and enjoy the beautiful colours of the Kalahari, the nice red dunes. So we're going to send you, apparently Lauren's got some insects for you.
Oh, we found our other insect. A rhinotic, everyone. Now I just want to show you the underside. The wind is unfortunately working against us, but you can see these rhinotics are not insects. Ticks are not insects. Not true insects, at least. They're arachnids. They're very closely related to scorpions and spiders. You can see it's clinging on. It's probably not solar powered enough to move. I'm going to turn it around, Abby. And there you see the top side. I actually think this is an extremely attractive tick, the rhino tick, known because they love to, well, cling on to rhinos. I actually think they're very, very pretty. They almost look like a ladybug, or at least the ladybugs in the UK. Now, I think this is a female. The male and female do look very different, and the male has lots and, that wind is picking up lots and lots of spots. Now, if you see my finger here, this just gives you a little bit of an indication of the size. So it's still very, very small, but they are actually one of the larger ticks, if that makes sense. Clinging on to life on a blade of grass. I do know that many people don't like ticks, but they do come in different shapes and sizes. They're not all the exact same ticks across the board. You get really, really huge ones, and the larger ones will treat larger species as their host. These smallest of all ticks that are just a few millimeters across are not going to be able to sort of feast on a rhino. The pepper ticks are tiny. They need soft tissue, soft skin, whereas the rhino ticks, wow, they're specially equipped for feeding on the blood of a rhino. We don't really have anything to fear from a rhino tick. It's moving just a little bit. And they do say that scents like lavender, possibly citronella, lemon, even almond oil, if you do rub that on your skin, it deters ticks. I don't know how foolproof it is, but really, really strong scents like that are said to keep the ticks away. And of course, tick bite fever is something you really, really don't want to get out here. You can become very, very sick from it. Ticks do pass on disease. At the end of the day, they are vectors of disease. And that's one of their roles in the ecosystem, to be a vector of disease at the end of the day. And I mean, the tick bite fever itself is actually a bacterial infection, and it's transmitted by bites. And I didn't catch that name, but you're asking, how do we control? Well, we can't control. We just have to take necessary measures in place to always check yourself or get someone to check for you, especially those softer tissue areas, the warmer areas of your body. You can apply lotions that deter the ticks, and I think we did receive a warning not so long ago in the groups to be extremely careful due to the weather. The tick load is very, very high. And if you were to do bushwalk right now, that would be slightly worrying. You can wear long pants, pull up your socks, wear long shirts, and just be overall cautious. Checking your body after being out in the wild is one of the most important things to do. But as for controlling populations, that's definitely something we can't do, I'm afraid. But this is a particularly beautiful tick. And there's actually two different types of tick bite fever that occur throughout the sort of sub-Saharan Africa and South Africa. And you get the Mediterranean spotted fever, known as MSF, and you also get ATBF, which is African tick bite fever. And your MSF, that's normally transmitted by dog ticks, especially in sort of urban areas. It can be responsible for several serious illnesses. And the African tick bite fever will be transmitted by cattle and game. And this is normally in rural farming and game reserves area. There's usually a milder infection, but still it can make people very, very sick. And of course, that's what we have to worry about out here. It's difficult to control any sort of insect populations. I mean, when I was in Maldives, they used to fog. They used to spray this special pesticide, and it was called fogging. It literally looked like your island was covered in fog for a minute or two to get rid of the mosquitoes, but really, this is not the method. It's not good. It's not good for humans. It's not good for the environments. And it's a real temporary measure to get rid of mosquitoes. So when it comes, you're better being proactive rather than reactive. So because of the season that we're in, because of the conditions, it's better to be proactive and just take care of yourself, cover up, watch where you're walking, check your body, cover yourself in oil that may repel them, rather than being reactive to a scenario that's already happened. Okay, little tick, we're going to put you back in the environment that you belong. Edward, yes, I guess they are. They all belong to the phylum Arthropoda. If you look up Arthropoda, you will find it's full of arthropods. And crabs belong to arthropods, as do insects, as do your arachnids. So yes, absolutely. Not closely related, but they do belong to the same phylum. Segmented bodies and, of course, a really hard exoskeleton. But yes, they do look like little crabs. definitely don't look like the Japanese spider crab. I hope you all Googled that the other day when I told you to. The Japanese spider crab. It's terrifying. But yes, they all belong to the phylum Arthropoda. The animal kingdom, or the kingdom Animalia, is broken up into different phylums. And that's sort of how you organize organisms, taxonomy, how you find out who's related to who, what the similarities are, what the differences are. I'm just going to put my cover on my monitor here. And I actually went into great detail the other day. I actually managed to shock Michelle and Mr. Stefan Winterboer with my new fact. And that was that there was a new phylum discovered in the Kruger National Park. You would think that they would know all the phylums that exist here, but no. In 2016, they discovered the phylum Cnidaria. Now, Cnidaria actually starts with a C, so it looks like Cnidaria, but it's not. It's a silent C, so it's called Cnidaria. And Cnidaria is the phylum where your jellyfish and your corals belong. Coral is, in fact, an animal, and it's really, really closely related to jellyfish. They are the stingers, and they found very small jellyfish, about the size of my pinky nail, maybe smaller, in the Kruger National Park. Freshwater jellyfish that were residing and actually thriving in stagnant pools of water way up the north of the Kruger. Chingwezi, I think it is. So a new phylum was discovered in 2016. That's very, very impressive. You never thought the phylum Cnidaria would be in the Kruger, that's for sure. Very interesting organisms in that phylum. Sea anemones, they also belong to that phylum. They also sting. And it's probably the one group of organisms that I have had the most trouble with. Yes, being stung in ridiculous places, especially a huge jellyfish tentacle going under my mask and across my lip. And my lips were like massive. It was rather entertaining. People pay for that these days. And I once landed on a sea anemone doing a sort of a huge regeneration project and went into shock because the stingers went into my chest. So yes, the phylum Cnidaria is an interesting phylum indeed. Anyway, we're going to do one last check of quarantine and get a little bit closer to home, but for now, over to Deirdre.
We having a stare down from a wildebeest. He's on top of the dunes. He was lying down, and as soon as we came close, he stood up, and now he's glaring at us. So, at a distance, you can tell he's a male because his horns are much longer and wider than his ears. His horns extend beyond his ears, whereas the females, their horns are much shorter and tend to be within their ears. So, as long as he doesn't start pawing the ground, then we'll be fine. We won't be charged by wildebeest today. They are very, very placid creatures. There's no issues with wildebeest. He's just seen us, so we've attracted his attention, that's all. He'll just be a lone territorial bull. You can hear lots of monotonous larks in the background. Holly is asking if these wildebeest migrate like the ones in the Mara. So no, the wildebeest in Tswalu don't move. They're finding enough food between waterholes and food. There are records of other animals doing migrations just north of us in Botswana. They've actually done studies on zebras that move across from Angola with the floodwaters in and out of Botswana in the delta, and that's zebras moving. But the wildebeest here, there's food all year round for them. So the wildebeest up in the Mara move following the rains. They're almost on the equator, so they just sort of flip-flop northern and southern side between Kenya and Tanzania, going on their little circuit. But that's following rains and following food, Whereas here there's food available all year round and water also available all year round, so there's no need for them to migrate. And the interesting thing with the migration with wildebeest that are territorial is that their territory moves. So a male wildebeest in a migration can have like a 15 square meter territory, and he mates with females as they move on the migration. But the wildebeest here will have a set territory that they keep all the time. So it's not a sort of a mobile territory, and it will be much larger here as well. I think he's winning the stare down because he hasn't moved. Just a flick of the tail every now and again for the flyers. Arthur is asking if I can tell how old he is. He was saying no with a twitch of his head. I don't know how old he is. They'd probably only get to about, I'd say 12, 14 maybe. I could be wrong. But he is a mature bull. So maybe I got the age wrong there. He shook his head. So I'd have to ask the wildebeest. Up a little bit more. But certainly being that size, he is a mature bull. So he's sort of more than 7, 8 years old, I would say. And he's territorial as well. Sometimes you can use the horns, the shape of the horns when they're younger to determine how old they are. But once they get to this size, unless you're actually seeing sort of their teeth inside their mouth to get a rough idea of how much wear is left on the teeth, then only would you be able to tell how old they get. But he's been around for a while. Kylie is asking the question, what characteristics we must look out for in a wildebeest? So wildebeest have almost like bicycle handle shaped horns. The blue wildebeest, which is what this one is, or the brindled gnu, has like a sort of a pattern or a stripe down the side of the body. And we've seen how thick his tail is. There you can see the stripes now. If you compare them to other species, if we were in other parts of southern Africa and you had the possibility to see a black wildebeest, they've actually got a white tail and a big tuft of hair that sticks straight out from the front of their nose, which is quite strange. And then their horns come forward and go up, almost like a pitchfork of sorts. Oh, he's just snorted at us now. He's good morning. And then up in East Africa is the bearded gnu, so sort of a lot more sort of hair around the throat area. So you'd look at certain features like that or characteristics to tell the different wildebeest one from the other. There's some that have like a white blaze on the nose. That's a different species. But very often with wildebeest, it's geographical distribution that will dictate as to what species you would find in that area. You don't often find an overlap of mixed species of wildebeest. It's generally they are a specific species in a specific geographical area. It sounds like Lauren has a bird to show you. We're going to send you there.
I know many of you sit at home and you wonder, what does a lilac-breasted roller look like when it's wet? I know you all think that. And here you have it. I'm very surprised it is staying this still for us all. This is a soggy bird. I remember last year we had a soggy bird competition. And I'm sure Mrs. Sebwig won. Mummy Sebwig, I'm sure she was the soggiest, wettest, most miserable bird that we managed to get on camera. Now, birds are endotherms just like us. Metabolism fuels their body heat, so it will feel the cold, especially when the wind blows. That will definitely chill the bird down. Oh. But it does just that. It shakes, it moves, it gets rid of the water, it stimulates the muscles, and I think this individual is hungry. And that's exactly why it's standing here, wants some insects. Food fuels metabolism. not ectothermic. It doesn't rely on the sun or anything like that. Exactly the same as us. We eat, we fuel our metabolism. We move our muscles, we warm up. And I think this individual is hungry. Yes, you are. I know. I'm hungry too. Kylie, we get a lot of interbreeding questions. It's not in an organism's makeup to interbreed with species that are not their own. So I'm sure biologically it's very possible, but it's not how the animal kingdom works. Is that if every organism interbred with every other organism, birds with all birds and cats with all cats, we wouldn't have the animal kingdom that we have today. So although they're very closely related biologically, it would probably work. You've got to remember, it's all about the survival of your own bloodline, not your own species, might I add, your own bloodline. Lilac-breasted rollers, the males will seek other female lilac-breasted rollers. It's not a case of, oh, I'm going to have a European lady today, or I'm going to go for a purple today. So yes, I believe biologically it's probably possible, maybe not sustainable for a long period of time, but it's really not how the animal kingdom works. It's all about surviving your own bloodline, and in order to do that, you've got to, of course, find other members of your own species. So animals that are closely related or in the same genus or the same family, yes, most likely they can interbreed. But it really wouldn't happen. But to remember, there's a whole sensory world that we don't see or we don't perceive, should I say. They have a sensory world that we really barely scratch the surface of. They will have chemical sense that'll draw them to one another, visual capacities, see light that we don't see, hear things that we don't hear. Yes, Julianne, you were saying this is such a wonderful close-up of a beautiful bird. I agree. Davi's doing a great job here. And the bird is doing a fantastic job of staying still. Thank you. It definitely wins the soggiest bird for me this morning. Ah, Julianne, on cue, flew off. Away we go. But yes, so for example, some species will recognize each other, like your cats, solely by scent. So yes, possibly a leopard can mate with a lion, but they're not going to be driven to do that because they're smelling the scent of their own species. Birds are not so olfactory, but still, they're going to recognize their own species, and that's exactly who they're going to mate with. That was a really nice sighting. That's too fast, Lauren. I'm going to go back into second gear. Try and minimize the wind chill here. My body needs to be fueled. Okay, I'm going to see what I can find around quarantine, and for now, we're going to send you across to Steve.
Well, everybody, this is indeed the fullest I have seen Chitwa. The Mulwanini is flowing. The overflow is spilling. Blessings for the rain. But we've had enough now. Gosh. We have had enough now. I've never seen it this full. It's bank to bank. The road that even runs along the side is gone. The entire spillway here, if this was a man-operated dam or a mechanically operated dam, you'd say all the sluice gates are open. So for the most part, fish can swim with the current. But yes, once some of them go below this this bridge, as you were, there's no going back. There's no fish ladder for them to climb back up again. Catfish might be able to make it, but fish will go downstream, and they'll end up in the Sand River, and they'll might perpetuate there, or even end up all the way down in the ocean. But for the most part, fish are able to swim. So there's not much of a current here, everybody. It's not a flowing stream in the watering hole itself. It's just an overflow here where the dam is sort of spilling. But the stream's not very strong. It's not torrential downpour. It's just the fact that the water level has been so high and the groundwater is saturated that any little bit of rainfall that falls now just pushes straight into the seep lines, straight into the drainage lines, and straight into these watering holes. And once they're full, they overflow and they continue the process downstream to eventually end up in the ocean. Excuse me. Excuse me very much. Where the water cycle continues again. All of this water came from the ocean and has been brought inland by the tropical cyclone. Many, many, many hundreds of kilometers away. I'm not sure what you mean, Thando, by irrigation systems. This is a natural system for the most part. These watering holes are designed to store water. The lodges might have some irrigation for washing their lawns, but that's where irrigation comes in. Irrigation's for excessive water. I don't really know what you mean by that. This overflow is heading downstream. The rain is irrigating the land, doing its natural thing. This is a seasonal landscape where rain is the natural irrigator. This is not an agricultural area where it's farmed. It is a natural system which relies on rainfall, and we go through ebbs and flows and droughts and wet seasons. We are in the middle of a very wet season. That's a very interesting question, Starlight. Organisms transported through the rain. Not that I'm aware of. Plenty of organisms transferred via the water as it goes downstream. But once it evaporates into the ocean for the cyclone and for the weather system, no organisms can do that. There's no ability for anything to stay in the gas form of the water as it evaporates. So rainfall picks everything up, can pick stuff up in the atmosphere and drop it down in the water, and any organisms that are living in the water, bacteria, microorganisms, get transported downstream, where their eventual fate is in pools or pans or puddles or eventually the ocean. And then the water changes from liquid to gas, and that evaporates into the sky. And nothing can continue that cycle with the water. Everything gets remained down. All the nutrients, all the sodiums, the salts, the chemicals, the pollutants, the organisms, as microscopic as they might be, none of them are able to fly up with the gas. Yes, of course, plenty of it is moving in the streams downhill. Everything goes down. Only the fish are able to go up. Okay, well, I'm going to turn around because the rain is really starting to pelt in through the front here. And we were wet before, and we are getting even more wet. So we're going to slowly head back onto Djuma. We have scratched around Chitwa very comprehensively, and we haven't found a leopard track. It doesn't mean there aren't leopards around. It just means I'm almost certain that they've made a kill somewhere and are in a block. Or they haven't made a kill, and they're in a block anyway. And lots of hippo tracks. An elephant and impala tracks. There were quite a few hyena. Maybe on our way back we'll spot something. But it is one of those mornings, everybody. It's been lovely being out here in the rain. It's lovely getting wet. We are waterproof. We will dry up, but I'm looking forward to a warm meal and some dry clothes. I have got a much more comprehensive poncho on today, and it covers all the way down to my boots. So you'll all be very impressed that my boots are covered today, everybody, and the rain is not leaking in from the top as it has done before. So thank you, blessings to this poncho that I managed to find, because my other poncho just was not doing the job. You'll know that investing in a decent poncho is worth the money when you get caught in these conditions. You'll know that the money on a good poncho is very well spent. Okay, well, we're going to slowly head back over to Djuma. Maybe we'll bump into Lauren as she searches for anything, really, big or small.
I think we have a southern bandied groundling here. If I am wrong, everyone, you're welcome to correct me. I'm just getting into my dragonflies, but a lovely manual that I have just discovered has got soaking wet and I want to cry. My brand new manual. Anyway, I think this is a male. The females, from what I can gather, look completely different. Just like the barbet perchers, the females are not entirely black in coloration. They're very, very yellow with a mottled pattern. It's quite a common one that we see here. And although the wing bands possibly look black from this angle, they are actually the brown. The spots on the wing, we call them wing bands, just like when you wear armbands as a kid. Remember those days? Now, I do have a really interesting diagram to show you in my white book. And it's some species of dragonflies are actually communal nighttime roosters. Not all of them, but some of them when it comes to nighttime, because many people say, where do the insects go at nighttime? They hide, they seek shelter. Even if it's not raining, they're still going to seek shelter. And this is the rock dwellers, the horned rock dwellers, sorry, and they're communal. So at nighttime, they all come together. They most likely find each other through a combination of senses. It's mostly sight before they lose light. And you can see they all cling onto the branch. Look at them all using their 6 legs. And that's how they rest at nighttime. I'm not sure if I want to say sleep, but they all rest together. They all cling on to this lovely piece of vegetation. I even got a from Darby. I think he found that fascinating. I need to apologise to my book. I'm a big book lover. I get very upset when I see people bending their spines and doing awful things to books. And now I've gone and got mine wet. I am sorry, book. Please forgive me. I once spilt red wine on James Hendry's book, and oh my goodness. I never forgave myself for that. But anyway,
The dragonflies are, of course, out and about. The insects are ready to go. It's the weather that's preventing them, but they've still got to eat. They can't go a day without eating just because it's raining. So although there's lots of challenges today in terms of lack of ambient light, lack of ambient warmth, wind, rain, insects have still got to feed. So you will find that they will be moving around here. We are just, of course, not seeing them as we normally would due to the weather. But this species, the southern banded groundling, you do often find it on the ground, and I imagine that's exactly where the name came from. I never seem to see this species flying around. I always see it on the ground. Only a water droplet, most likely they could shake off. It wouldn't soak into the wings from the material that the wings are made up from. Whereas if you think of a bird like our lilac-breasted roller, it was shaking. It was shaking the water off because the water was sitting on the feathers. And that's why it kept shaking like a wet dog. There's nothing worse when you bring your dog in from a walk in the rain. You've got to be ready for that. You've got to have the towels ready. But they need to shake the water off because they're waterlogged, they're wet, it's heavy, it's weighing them down. But for an insect, remember I mentioned that waxy substance? That's going to cause the water droplets to just drop right off of the body, the exoskeleton at least. But when it comes to the wings, they'll just shake it off. So it won't prevent them from flying. The water won't absorb into any part of this organism, if that makes sense. The wind's not going to make it too easy though. And of course, it's looking for prey, it's looking for food. And there's not too many other insects buzzing around. But the rain has eased up. It's still raining, but it's definitely a little bit easier and lighter than it was this morning. You can hear the birds calling now. Start to see insects flying, birds flying. And as soon as the rain gets heavier again, that'll all stop. I highly doubt it. They're aerial hunters. They don't walk. Although this is on the ground, they can stand, they can hold their body weight up. They can't actually walk. If you think about an insect's body, you've got the head, the thorax, then the abdomen. The thorax is the transport center where all 6 legs are attached, which leaves the abdomen, no matter how long or how short or how thin or how fat, completely unsupported by any legs. Now for a dragonfly, the abdomens happen to be very, very long. For a damselfly, they're even longer. There's nothing supporting that, and therefore they're not apt at walking. They can walk, but you're not going to find them crawling along the ground for food. And they're aerial hunters. They're completely adapted for life in the air. They're experts. They can hover, they can move all 4 wings independently, they can move forward, they can move backwards, they can spin upside down. They're incredible and they're fast. We really have to admire the way a dragonfly can move through the air, so I really don't think a dragonfly could survive without its wings. And that's why you find them perched. They're perchers. They don't really walk. They're not really mobile on a flat surface. We're going to let this dragonfly be and see if we can find any other insects. We're doing a good job. I got off the vehicle to find that one. There you go. If you just sort of walk along and have a look at the vegetation, you can pick out that there's life there. The slower you go, the better. And I got my flower mantis the other day. I was absolutely over the moon. That's been on my bucket list for about 2 years now, 2.5 years. And I finally got it. You can see all the droplets. Sometimes you think a water droplet is a little insect. So I am going to continue doing just that, looking around for the small things.
It is fantastic seeing you all again. Those who haven't met me, my name is Dylan, in what is undoubtedly a very, very, very green Kalahari from what we were looking at a couple of months ago. We will be doing our very first fireside chat for WildEarth. So if you can join us on the 13th at about 7:30 after game drive, it would be an absolute pleasure. We'll see you there.
Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire straight after the sunset safari.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody, where there was a moment or two there where the sun was trying to tear itself free of the clouds. Hopefully it does so, although I believe this weather is stuck with us for a few more days. I would love a few days of sunshine. It's been an incredibly wet month that I've been here. Been here since the night of the 15th, and we've had probably less than a handful of sunny days. The rest have been overcast, raining, torrential downpour. It is what you expect in these parts or these times of the year. But this has probably been the wettest January, February of my reckoning. Oh, hello, little ones. A little family of crested francolins in the road. You can see the little youngsters following mum. This is one that was calling. We thought maybe there was a leopard or something nearby when we were with that Impala herd. It's making lots of noise. Busy feeding. Busy feeding on the seeds of the grasses. This time of year, francolins will feed on the seeds as well as insects. No, not at all, Haley. This is a summer rainfall environment. It's all about the summer rain. It's how this environment has evolved itself. In winter, it's cold. We don't expect rain. There is some rain from time to time, but here on the eastern sides of South Africa, it's all about the summer rainfall. Very wet. Let's make a little contact call. Wonder if you can hear it. Birds have started to make noises all around us. They got a glimpse of that sun too, and they're going, please, sunshine, come out for us. So you can see the size difference between a turtle dove and a franklin. I use doves, starlings, guinea fowl, sparrows as sort of guides when it comes to size. Whenever you see a bird, was it bigger or smaller than one of those types of birds? And then from there, it makes it a lot easier. Oh, here we go. That's why they were calling. Here comes the last of the chicks. The contact call was going, where are you, Frederick? Where have you gone off to? I'm here, Mum. I'm here. Didn't go very far. I was just, just checking the seeds over that side. Shaking my bum. Have a little drink, peck at this. Well, everybody, we do hope you've enjoyed our morning. It has been entertaining, to say the least, being out and about in the rain. But it is what it is. This is a live safari, and we try and bring you what action we can. And we do look forward to hosting you again, once again this afternoon, from all the various locations. Depending on the weather, we'll see how we do. But thank you for your questions and comments. As always, we'll see you later this afternoon. Until then, good day, goodbye, and stay dry.